Welcome back, hackers and security enthusiasts. Today we're diving deep into information disclosure vulnerabilities, one of the most underestimated yet critical security flaws that can lead to full system compromise. Why does this matter? Because even small leaks, server versions, hidden directories, or misconfigured cloud storage can give attackers the keys to your kingdom. In this video, we'll break down what information disclosure really is, how hackers exploit it for RCE, DDoS, and data breaches, my unseen methodologies using Kali Linux and WSL, advanced tools like Nuclei, S3 Scanner, and Shodan. Stick around, because by the end, you'll know how to find and exploit these leaks like a pro. Let's get started. What is information disclosure? While it might not sound as flashy as RCE or SQLe, information leaks can be the golden key that unlocks an entire system. Imagine finding AWS keys in a public GitHub commit, or discovering an exposed Git directory with full source code access. This is the power of information disclosure. In this video, before we jump into my unseen methodologies for exploiting these flaws using Kali Linux and WSL, we'll break down exactly what makes this vulnerability so dangerous, where to find it, and how attackers weaponize leaked data. What is information disclosure? Information disclosure occurs when a system unknowingly reveals sensitive data, server versions, API keys, credentials, internal IPs, or even deleted files. This can happen due to misconfigurations, debugging remnants, or poor security practices. For example, a misconfigured AWS S3 bucket can expose millions of user records, or a simple HTTP header leak might reveal an outdated Apache version, leading to a remote code execution (RCE) chain. The worst part? Many organizations don't even realize they're leaking data until it's too late. Types of information disclosure. 1. Server version leaks. 2. Sensitive data exposure. 3. AWS open buckets for original IP disclose. For example, a simple HTTP header like server Apache 2.4.29 tells an attacker exactly which exploits to use. Or an exposed Git directory can leak an application's entire source code. The impact? Attackers can chain these leaks into remote code execution, RCE, credential theft, or even DDoS attacks by exploiting outdated services. Let's start with server version leaks. Ever seen headers like X powered by PHP 7.2.24 or server Apache 2.4.29? These seem harmless, but they're a goldmine for attackers. Why? Because hackers can search for known exploits like CVE 21.41773 for Apache 2.4.49, launch version-specific attacks DDoS, RCE, LFI, bypass defenses by fingerprinting the tech stack. For example, if a server runs an outdated Apache version, an attacker might exploit CVE 2021.41773 for path traversal and RCE. Or, if it's an old NNX build, they might trigger an HTTP2 DOS attack. Next up, sensitive data leaks. This includes directory listings exposing admin/backup.zip, Git SVN folders, full source code access, configuration files.env with database passwords, backup files back revealing hidden logic. Imagine finding htexample.com/env with database passwords, or stumbling upon backup.zip containing admin credentials. These are goldmines for attackers. One of the most devastating leaks? Misconfigured AWS S3 buckets. Companies like Tesla and Verizon have lost millions due to public buckets containing user databases, internal documents, server logs with IPs and credentials. For example, AWS S3/company backup might reveal unprotected storage, or a JavaScript file might leak bucket URLs. Finally, origin IP leaks. Even with Cloudflare, attackers can find your real server IP through historical DNS, SSL certificates, or misconfigured subdomains. Why this vulnerability is dangerous? You might think, it's just some leaked data, how bad can it be? Let me break it down. Initial access, exposed credentials, full system takeover, reconnaissance, server versions, exploit chaining, data breaches, GDPR fines, reputation loss, bypassing CDNs, finding origin IPs, direct attacks. In 2023, over 60% of breaches started with an information leak. That's why bug bounty hunters love this vuln. It's low-hanging fruit with high rewards. This isn't just theory. Real-world breaches start here. Now let's see how to find these gold mines.
Staring down the barrel. When tomato my friend.